about here now then is that it's almost like that's a kind of a side project to the computer grid that they're building up at CERN, because I know that the Blue Brain first, and allegedly they call it the Blue Brain because it worked in unison with the IBM Blue Gene, this supercomputer that they had there.
Right.
But now they're potentially looking into switching the system then and going over to another, because I don't recall if it was you and me, Freeman, who talked about the idea that they might even hijack every single personal computer on the planet through the web to actually process this information, or to use the processing power of all these computers. You hook them up and you get a tremendous amount of power. That's why they wanted to have one in every home, as it were. I guess the only thing that's lacking now is to have a good connection, meaning they need a fiber optic connection through all these computers to actually make it work. But what do you think, Freeman?
Wow, that would be something. That's right up there with CSETI and their whole connection of getting everybody to get their system set up on their computer. Makes me wonder.
Yes,
it does make me wonder.
Yes.
I can't say that I know, but
it's a possibility, at least.
It's definitely a possibility.
It could be, but this new system sounds really interesting as well that they're setting up, and incredible calculations. The question, of course, that comes up there then is who has someone else built these bodies on other planet? Basically, this ties in with the whole Avatar theme as well here. Again, then the Pandora journey, so to speak. But someone has to be on the receiving end of this and building these bodies, right?
Yeah, you would think, yes, that there would have to be somebody on the other planet that have the E-body. Some of the studies that I did into this, now, of course, with Avatar, we've got the blue beings. And this is also a running theme within all of this. Osiris is shown as blue, and the Hindu gods blue. Krishna is blue. And the blue people are one that come up often in an ancient astronaut stories. Avatar, now that means God incarnate, then shows us these beings, the Na'vi. Now, what I always do when I see a film, especially one from a producer that produces Lady Gaga videos, I don't know if you know, James Cameron is the producer for Lady Gaga.
JC,
and yeah, JC, right. We get to the idea that I take everything to Kabbalism, you see, because I understand that Freemasonry is Kabbalism, which is this ancient Hebrew mysticism, and that's why people think why people think it's a Jewish conspiracy, because the Masons use the same symbols. You'll go to the temple there in London and the 1717 Grand Lodge, and you're going to see Star of Davids all over the place inside of there, but they are Freemasons. And so I always take my analysis to Kabbalism and to Hebrew, therefore, and the Tarot. And when I started looking into Avatar and started decoding some of the symbols in there, the Na'vi, the NV, that translates into death lovers in the Tarot. Because N is the letter of the death card and V is the letter of the lovers card in Tarot. So you've got the Na'vi, the death lovers, living on Pandora, which of course opens all the evils in the world, and is quoted as Avatar, God incarnate. So it brings in this whole idea of the law of nature and the interconnectedness of our spirits with life on planet Earth. Deep.
It's so incredibly different, because when I looked at the Avatar, I got another interpretation of the name Na'vi. To me, was like a shortening of the navigators. Again, this ancient race here on planet Earth, probably connected with the Phoenicians, the Canaanites, the merchant class, if you will, those who potentially, if we look back through our history, set up the whole banking system and had the carried on the ancient knowledge, as it were. But it's also those who navigate through history, those who remain in one way. But there is another film interpretation here that Fredrik reminded me of, Dune. You have these the people on Dune, the desert planet, before it turns into water, called the Fremen, which could be interpreted as the free men, obviously, but they have these blue eyes as well. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
So we have the same thing there. You have someone going to another planet to become free, become the free man again,
Right, and collect all the gold or spice.
Yes,
right?
That's right.
Yeah. Yes, and in corporate logos terms, of course, that would be the Old Navy, right?
The Old Navy, yeah, exactly.
Now, the curious thing also is that Na'vi was not specific to Avatar. Na'vi came to us long before in The Legend of Zelda.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a little blue fairy that follows around the character Link in the story and gives him guidance. And that little fairy was known as Na'vi as well. And
AI, right? The search for the blue fairy as well in AI, artificial intelligence, the movie.
Oh, I don't remember that. I'll see that again.
That was the boy who allegedly is trying to become human, right? The little boy in the film, and he's trying to do that with the help of the blue fairy. He goes to look for the blue fairy because it comes from this storybook that he read or whatever when he was little. So that's yet another little connection to the blue thing, and also of something artificial, if you will, then to become real. Or we can look at it the other way around, of something real to become artificial, or to come into the body of a robot or an artificial intelligence system. Incredibly interesting.
Yeah, when you look at that image of what opened up over Australia on January 22nd, that very much looks like the Eye of Droid, or the Eye of Sauron, or the Eye within the Disney films, Meet the Robinsons, or any one of the HAL.
Yeah.
It very much looks just like all of these connections. So what this shows us is that this is a mystical story that has been passed through these elite brotherhood and then finds its way out into reality as movies, because our movies are all crafted by these occult orders.
It's just incredible. And what's your if we just tie in a little bit more in terms of Project Bluebeam, then that's the first thing that came up in regards to the Norway spiral was a kind of a literal interpretation of this event. Just like, it must be Project Bluebeam because it looks like a blue beam coming out of the spiral. I haven't read that much more about Bluebeam and exactly who was behind bringing out that information. I think it was some kind of insider who mentioned that this was in the works. And of course, what I know so far is the whole Project Bluebeam ties together the whole Messiah story and the creation of a one world religion. They're trying to project basically images in the sky of a Messiah or different Messiah kind of figures, which makes the whole Maitreya story interesting as well, because as this sign then appeared over Norway, this star in the sky, then this Messiah comes out now and says, I'm going to make my public appearance now, etc., etc. What do you think about Project Bluebeam, Freeman?
Well, I did not immediately think that the Norway spiral was connected with Bluebeam, because Bluebeam is to alter the entire spectrum of our reality. It's to unify religion. It's to unify nations. It's to bring about a one world government, a one world religion. The Bluebeam in Norway in no way did this. It didn't emit this type of reaction out of people. It's not big enough. It's not something dramatic enough. And then you add in the giant pyramid floating over Moscow the same day, which seemed to be some sort of projection, but we can't tell, can we? So to me, this wasn't enough. This wasn't Bluebeam, and I put that in my article that I did not think this was part of Project Bluebeam. Maybe testing, but I don't even think that, because if you're going to test something that's going to confuse the whole world into believing a lie, then you wouldn't, make it so public.
Yeah.
And because the Bluebeam in Norway did not have that type of mental effect, I do not think it was part of Project Bluebeam. What I see are such as the large V-shaped craft that flew over my head, the large V-shaped craft that flew over Fife Symington's head, and you can also see a UFO over Chile, which looks very much like the V-shaped craft that flew over my head. I'll get that up in Space War News here really soon. What I see is that we have these devices. We have these large, very, very large craft with anti-gravity technology. I've seen one, so it's not something that's questionable in my mind.
And you think it's human, or is it ET?
Well, maybe both.
Maybe both.
Yeah. Because when we're dealing with this, maybe ETs aren't as we think they are, and maybe it's more along David Icke's lines that they are basically entities that are transmitted into people. This would be just like what we're talking about with this radio